Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name's Jen, and I am your hostess for the evening. And with me, as always, we have Henno and Brian. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
I know it's been a while.
Yep.
Sorry, folks. Life is lifing us again. But
last week it was mostly my fault. So, because the night we were supposed to record, I was out with my best friend celebrating my birthday, and we got caught up in a very increasingly uncomfortable conversation with a guy at a place, and then we were both really hungry, so we went to get something to eat, and then I was like, oh, the time has gotten away from me. So there was that, and then I blatantly forgot Sunday that we were supposed to record, so yeah.
It wasn't until you texted me on Monday that I was like, oh, wait, we were supposed to do this last night.
Yeah. Yep, that was the same thing I thought too.
I came home late. Well, not really late. I got home around 6 o'clock on Sunday because I was on a trip. And yeah, it was just, I was done.
Yeah.
It was a hell of a trip, a very good trip, but I was kind of done.
Yeah. That's fair.
It happens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so sorry we're like, yeah, we're going to be here every other week, and then, we take 2 weeks off. So whoopsies. Yeah. But yeah, I guess I'll go first since we're, whatever here.
Mm-hmm.
And
So, last week was my birthday, and in the past, it's weird how my birthday and Christmas are weird holidays for me, and that I like them, I'm fine with them and everything. But for a long, long time, it was really, I don't know, it was weird. Like, I had no real expectations as far as, like, if anyone would get me a gift or anything, and this isn't, like, a greed thing. It's just, I think it was that I was so caught up in the big win still, right? That it was like, well, if you didn't get something that basically blew you away or was really thoughtful, that it was kind of like, oh, it's, because you hit a certain age, you don't get as many gifts as you used to get. You get a couple and you're like, oh, thanks, whatever. Or people are like, hey, I'll buy you dinner. And you're like, oh, great, cool, and that's fine. That's what being an adult is. But then when you do get gifts and then they're just like, oh, okay. Like I said, it wasn't a greed thing. It was just, I really think it was that my brain just wouldn't let me seemingly, like, I'm always thankful. I always say thank you, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, I think my brain just wouldn't let me really appreciate things that weren't, I don't know. It was the grasp on perfection, right? Like, if it wasn't exactly the thing or whatever, so I'm pretty, I feel like I'm past that finally, like I finally grew up in that aspect. It was weird though, because it wasn't intentional. It wasn't whatever. And like I said, I really did appreciate whatever anybody would get me, but it was so strange that it was like that. And I don't even think, like, for a long time, I didn't realize I was doing it. And, then once I did, I really tried to work to not feel that way. And this year I didn't feel that way at all, which was nice. And, went out with, me and Jen went out and had dinner, which was really nice. And then I went out with Tony, and then I went out with my brother for lunch, and there was something else. And I just, by Saturday, I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm just, and podcasting Monday night too. So again, there was an element of a social element Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I think Friday I didn't do much, but I still, what was that? There was something I did. Anyway, but so Saturday I was like, I just stayed in bed almost all day. I was like, I just need to recharge because I just am not feeling anything today. And it wasn't bad. It was good. It was that I woke up and was like, I just don't feel like doing anything. And then I was like, you know what? I don't have anything that's pressing. I don't have anything I have to do, so I'm going to just lounge, and recharge. And it felt nice to do that. And did it part of Sunday too, because I still felt like I needed some more. So, but overall, it was a good week. It was a good birthday. I turned 43. It's funny how people still try to hit me with the blah, blah, you're old, and they don't understand that I don't care. Like, it doesn't work on me. Because age, it just doesn't. The only reason I care about getting older is like, percentage-wise, I'm inching closer to, the percentage of dying is incrementally increases the older you get, But again, you don't know. I could kill tomorrow, or I could be like my grandma who's 103, you never know. Or, like, last week, I saw a thing that was celebrating, like, the country's oldest surviving World War II veteran, and he's, like, 112. And I'm like, he's not the oldest person alive? Nope. 124, apparently, is the oldest person alive. And I'm like, oh, my God.
Holy moly.
I don't want to live that long. Not unless, like, science is like, hey, we can make you feel like you're 30, even though you're 124. Then maybe. But otherwise, nah, it's right out. But, like I said, it's just, age has just never really bothered me. It's like when you're young, you're like, I wish I was older. Once you hit like 25, you're like, well, I can pretty much do everything in the, that there is to do legally now. So that's about it. After now, it's like, whatever. They're just birthdays from this point already, So, yeah, it's, it is kind of fun to take the wind out of someone's sails when they're trying to really, you're getting old. And I'm like, yep. like I felt 40 when I was 20. So, it doesn't really do much for me now. The nice part was the people who were, either very kind or lying to me and telling me that they were surprised that I was 43, saying that they thought I was much younger. That's always nice to hear, I guess, but also like cool, like whatever. So, it was a good week though. I was, I had a good time for the most part, and just like I said, was smart, recharged when I needed to at the end of the week, and headed into this week in a pretty decent mindset, even though the last 2 days have just absolutely kicked my hiney up to my shoulders because we've had rain like all day yesterday, off and on, all night, all day today is killing, and cold front coming through at the same time. So my head has just been killing me for yesterday and today. But, well, I can't do anything, like it's going to happen. So, yeah. And I think that's about it for me, though. So, whoever's next.
I'll go. So, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. I've really been kind of just struggling with my head, just anxiety and I believe depression, and just kind of cycling through just a bunch of just stuff. No particular reason, which is always the funnest part of mental health and mental illness, is that a lot of times there's no reason. There's no like apparent triggers or anything to start it off. It just kind of wake up one day and it's there. Yay. And you gotta, so there's not something that can be quote unquote fixed.
Yeah.
So, if there's a trigger, something happens that causes you to get depressed or causes you to have anxiety and stuff, you can kind of work on that situation and resolve the situation the best as possible and kind of work your way through it and stuff. When there is no root to it and it just kind of is, whether it's weather related, whether it's, barometric pressure, whatever it is, and you don't know what it is, you can do nothing really much other than kind of sit in it and just kind of do what you can, use your toolbox to kind of work through it to the best of your ability, and just kind of just be and just say, okay, this is the status I'm in, and just know that it's going to pass. I kind of was just going through all that and stuff. And then last week, we're coming up on, I went to Kentucky for the weekend. So last week, I had dinner with Brian on Tuesday, which, as he mentioned, it was so much fun. We got to reminisce, we got to talk about, whatever, a bunch of stuff, and just had a really good time. And then Wednesday, I decided to take a half day of work on Wednesday. So I worked till noon. And then I was going to be off until the following Monday, which was this last Monday. And the second half of Wednesday, I got my hair done and I got my nails done. Well, I went and saw my hairdresser, and my hairdresser just got diagnosed with breast cancer. And so the prognosis is really good for her. They honestly feel that she'll be fine, and the reoccurrence is only 6%. So it really sounds like things are going to be okay. It's just not going to be an easy road to get to the okay.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of just, kind of puts things in perspective a bit for yourself. We're similar age. In fact, she might even be a little younger than I am. She's got, 3 children, 2 fairly young, one that deals with mental health problems. So they're all kind of handling this in their own ways and kind of working through it. And she's kind of handling things in her own way. And she said that because as I was there, she got a message from the nurse practitioner saying for her to call because she has her test results back. And she was telling me, she's like, I kind of want to call because I kind of want to know, And then I really kind of don't want to call because I really don't want to know. She's like, it was kind of like, this is a turning point, and I don't really quite want to face it.
Yeah.
She's like, so I'm just going to color your hair. I said, that sounds like a good plan. I said, if that's what you want to do, I said, I am all for it. I said, you just focus on coloring my hair, and the rest will happen when it needs to happen. And she's like, yep. She's like, I think that's the best plan. And I said, okay. And so it was just it was interesting kind of having that talk to her, and it just kind of made me reflect a little bit on things. And then, of course, getting my nails done is always fun, to kind of sit there, and you can't do anything with your hands because they're occupied. So I can't play on my phone. They have TV on, but it's usually not something I'm really interested in watching. So I kind of have like an hour to an hour and a half of just kind of sitting there. So it's kind of a reflection time that you kind of, not really meditation per se, but you just kind of zone out, because the woman that works on my nails is not the most fluent in English. So conversation is usually minimal. So I just kind of zone out and kind of let my mind wander. And so it always makes me feel pretty good. And then I got myself all packed and ready to go. And we left on Thursday. We got up late. We left, and it normally would take about 5 hours to get to Kentucky, but my husband decided to go through Indiana, because I'm in Michigan. So normally you would take 75 through Ohio to Kentucky. But we ended up going through Indiana because he has a hard time driving through very busy, congested areas without getting frustrated.
So you wanted to avoid like Kentucky or Cincinnati?
Yep.
Okay.
Cincinnati is really bad.
It's only really bad if you're hitting it the wrong time. Usually, like if you hit early or late, it's not so bad. But it's the middle of the
birds down.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay, yeah, then it's going to be a nightmare probably. Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right.
And there's a city in Indiana called Auburn that was a lot of fun. So he's been wanting to take me there anyways. So we ended up going through the fields. So we, the countryside and stuff, saw the corn and whatnot. We went to Auburn. We went to this really great little restaurant that he knew of in Auburn, had a great time. It took us, 8 hours to get to Kentucky. Normally it wouldn't have taken that long, but we kept, stopping and doing this and that and the other.
That's not
stuff.
That much long. It's what, like 5.5 hours to Louisville or Kentucky?
Yeah, so it's about 2.5, 3 hours extra.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
And it was nice. And we ended up getting down there, kind of took our time, didn't rush, whatever. Get down there, met up with his dad and his stepmom. And just really, we shared a beer. We kind of just chit-chatted, and I'm going to bed. Next day, we were going to a bourbon festival. They didn't open until they opened at 10. We had VIP tickets. We couldn't get into the VIP area until 11. And I think we got into the festival around like noonish.
That is really early for a bourbon festival to open. You'd think they wouldn't open until noon or 1.
This is not like a beer festival where like everyone is selling their beers and their wares and you get a bunch of samples and stuff like that. Yeah. There were samples, yes, but the majority of the real focus was on like knowledge. So there's a lot of speakers and a lot of, so it's almost more convention-y than it was festival-y.
Oh, okay. All right. That is definitely different then, because otherwise I'm like, you're going to let people, not that 11's that early, but it's also like, usually you'd wait, like I think a lot of them wait till like noon 1 in the hopes that people will like have lunch first.
Exactly. So we got up into the VIP room and we found, they had a couple open bars and they had some food and stuff. And so we were just enjoying ourselves. I had some Blantons. finished one bottle of Blanton's. And the thing with Blanton's, for those that aren't familiar, Blanton's is a bourbon that has a horse stopper on top of the bottle. It's a round bottle with a horse stopper. And the horses all have letters on them, and they spell out Blanton's when you collect them all. So it's kind of a thing to collect the horses. Well, they finished a bottle on my glass, and she was going to throw it away. And I'm like, can I have the stopper? She's like, well, sure. So she gives me the horsey. I'm like, great. Got an extra horsey. So we go and we hang out and just do a bunch of other stuff at the festival and stuff. And then we go back up and get a few more drinks. And she had more bourbon or more Blanton's. So I got a second horsey because they were finishing the bottle. So I got my next horsey. I'm like, well, this is darn good. All right. I'm liking this.
This is a game of horse I want to play.
Yeah, right? So we're just goofing around and stuff. And I go back up and I'm like, well, I had Blanton's twice and they had almost a full bottle. So I knew I wasn't going to get a third horse. So I'm like, well.
Not unless you were prepared to spend a lot of money.
Well, it was all free up in the VIP room.
Oh, well, why didn't you get a third one? No, I'm kidding.
So I asked him, I'm like, what do you have that I haven't tried and I need to try? And the bartender looked at me. He's like, Michter's 10-year. I'm like, all right. So I, tried the Michter's 10-year, and it was wonderful. It was very, very, very good. And I looked it up later, and it was like a $500 bottle. So, yeah. So I'm like, okay, well. So I paid for my VIP ticket, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's the perfect kind of thing to drink like that, because that's not something you're probably, I don't imagine, going to go buy yourself generally. So, not unless you lucked into a cheap bottle somewhere, which I can't imagine you will, but,
Exactly. It's one of those rare bottles. And I'm like, holy cramoly. All right. So as I was leaving the VIP room, I have a T-shirt on for Bourbon Pursuit, which Bourbon Pursuit is a very popular bourbon podcast. And I highly recommend anyone who is a fan of bourbon, look them up, check them out. They are amazing. So I have this T-shirt on because I'm at a bourbon fest, so it seems appropriate. So as I'm walking around, this guy stops me and he's like, great T-shirt. And I stopped and I looked up and it was Kenny, the host of the show.
Ah, nice.
Huh.
And I started laughing. And I'm like, why, thank you. Great podcast. He's like, he laughed. He's like, all right. He's like, well, I'm Kenny. Nice to meet you. And I'm like, hey, Kenny, I'm Jen. So we started talking for, just over, a few minutes, just go, whatever, exchanging pleasantries and stuff. So it was just, that was kind of like the little cherry on my cake, So, and then I got a chance to talk to a bunch of just, everyone at festivals. You know how these are. If you've been to a beer fest or any sort of festival like that, people talk to everybody. You just talk to everyone.
It's honestly one of the best parts of it is because you're all there because you all enjoy the same thing. Maybe not the same bourbons or the same beers, but you all enjoy bourbon or you all enjoy beer, Because I did the same thing, like when I would stand outside at the beer fest, since I wasn't one of the, VIP members, I'm just standing out there amongst the savages. And, I had some great conversations with people out there, and then once you're in, we'd have good conversations with people. It's so nice when you get to bond over stuff like that, because again, it's a, hey, we're all here for a common thing. There's no fighting. There's no nothing, like we're just here to have a good time. And, hey, did you try this? Yeah, like that kind of stuff. It was awesome.
Yeah. And it was really cool. Cause I met a bunch of variety of different people and stuff. I talked to a lot of the actual distillers and the makers of the different bourbons and stuff. I talked to the guy from Barrel. He introduced to me something new that I didn't realize was on the market, and he had me try different things. It was just, it was really an awesome day.
That was what we used to like to do at the beer fest, is you walk up, and if the brewer, was there or whatever, he'd be like, okay, what should I, of the stuff you have here, what do I have to try? Basically, and let them geek out to you, because most of the time they're like, oh, we did, blah, blah, and they just start geeking out on the topic, and you're like, this is awesome. Let's, so yeah, it's cool.
It was so cool. And so we ended up, going back to the hotel, went in the pool for a little bit, got dinner, and then we were talking, and we had tickets for Saturday. And we're like kind of done. I mean, it wasn't a huge festival.
Mm-hmm.
We talked to a bunch of different people. We had a really good time, and we drank a lot of good bourbon. So I'm like, kind of, check mark, done.
Yeah.
And then we had, 4 tickets for the next day. And I'm like, well, I kind of don't want to go back. And nobody else did either. We're kind of like, eh. So, Hubs and I started talking. And I'm like, well, I said, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, all the distilleries, all the tours and everything had been booked up for months because this was a big bourbon weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
So you couldn't do anything around town, basically.
Right.
That was all booked. So we're like, all right, well, you want to go back to Auburn? It was fun. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of fun. Let's go back there. So we ended up leaving the hotel early. We went to Louisville, and there was a sandwich that my husband loves at a very specific restaurant in Louisville. So we went and we got that.
Well, no, you can't just gloss over that. What sandwich are we talking about here? Because I've been to Louisville. I'm just curious what the sandwich is. Okay. What if I'm through there and want a good sandwich? What if Henno wants a good sandwich?
You're going to go through Louisville, stop by Tony Boomba's. So it's like Boomba's Pizzeria. I'm on pizza and Watcher. I think it's Boomba's Pizza and Watching or something, or Watcher.
Okay.
Google Boomba's. They'll find you. So way back when, years and years and years ago, when my husband's dad used to live in Louisville, and he'd go down and visit. They go to Boomba's, and there's the sandwich on the menu. That was a chicken pesto sandwich.
Okay.
And he fell in love with the sandwich. So we went to Boomba's to get the sandwich. The sandwich is no longer on the menu.
Oh, no.
So the waiter, who was amazing, I love this guy, comes over. We're one of the first customers, and I mention it to him, and I'm like, hey, there used to be the sandwich. And he's like, people have mentioned the sandwich to me. I think we can make it. I said, okay, great. He's like, remind me what's on it. So what's on it? It's the Boomba bread with grilled chicken, sauteed onions and peppers, mozzarella cheese, and topped with their pesto sauce. And so he explained it to the guy, and the guy's like, I got this. So he goes back into the kitchen and comes back out, and he tells me, I'm like, well, what do I need to eat? He's like, you need to have our green chili jam pizza.
I'm looking at that right now because I pulled up their menu. I'm looking at that right now. That's
and I said,
interesting.
I don't know about this. And he's like, I'm telling you, you need to have this pizza.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So I got the pizza. He got his sandwich. Guy comes out with our food. I take one bite of the pizza. The chili jam is insanely good.
Yeah, real quick, what it says is on this is garlic cream sauce, applewood smoked bacon, red onions, peppadew peppers, mozzarella, and goat cheese drizzled with green chili jam.
Yeah. That green chili jam is sweet and tart and spicy and hits all the notes in one fell swoop on top of this pizza.
Really interesting.
It's so freaking good. So, and he tells my husband, he's like, I wanted to make sure they made the sandwich right. So I kind of went back there and I kind of watched them just to make sure that they got everything right. And I made a substitution because you didn't say sauteed, but I'm thinking you meant the sauteed onions and peppers and stuff, the special blend we have, and blah, blah, blah. So Dan takes a bite and he's like, this is the sandwich. He's like, oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad we got it right for you. He was just about as excited as we were. So we're having this great lunch, this great, waiter and stuff. And so we just have this wonderful time. And then the manager steps by and asks how things are going. And of course, in true Jen fashion, I always tell her the truth, which is, you have an amazing waiter. And she's like, thank you. Yes, we've been told that many times. We do really appreciate it. He's probably one of our best. And I said, he's just an awesome guy. So, we tipped him well and we went on our way. So we left Louisville. We went up to, got to Auburn about midday, late in the day. We didn't know what to do, so we're just walking around downtown, and we both really love a good prime rib. And we're like, all right, what we're going to do. So we look over, and in this midst of this little tiny town, that's really just kind of a block. There's this gourmet steakhouse. So we're like, why the hell not? So we go into this place and we're like, all right, can we get a table for two? And she's like, oh, we do reservation only. Do you mind sitting at the bar though? I think we have a couple spots. And we're like, bar is perfect. Thank you. So we get up to the bar. Two other couples are sitting at the bar. We're just chit-chatting with everybody about everything. The bartender is friendly as can be. He's making, drinks for us, and we're chit-chatting about everything under the sun. We get a couple of prime rib dinners, which were freaking fantastic. The bartender kept making his drinks for the tables and stuff, and he would accidentally make a little extra, and so instead of throwing it away, he'd put it in little glasses and slip them to me, so that I was trying all these drinks, fancy drinks that were going out to the tables and stuff. And I mean, we're just lucked into this place, just had this really wonderful meal and just really enjoyed ourselves. And we're like, well, this is just crazy.
Awesome.
So the next day, this comes Sunday, and we're supposed to be heading home, and my husband's really into cars, and Auburn has the Auburn Cord Duesenberg museum, car museum. So we end up going to this museum, and there's a truck museum next door. And so we get to see all these like amazing works of art cars that, I mean, they're nothing compared to the modern cars that we have today. They're just from the 20s and 30s and up until like the 40s and, even to the 70s. They're just gorgeous. There's all this car history and stuff. And so then we ended up cutting back through Indiana, back home, got home Sunday night. Now, all of this I tell you today, couple key points. One, I am a very structured traveler. I am a very structured planner.
Mm-hmm.
The entire trip, one thing went according to my structured plan. And that was the tickets on Friday. And we went, and that didn't even go according to the plan. Because anyone who's traveled with me, anyone who knows me personally knows, I have things timed out. I know where we're going to eat, what time we're going to get where we're supposed to be. If the thing opens at such and such time, we're going to be there at such and such time. We are going to do this and that and that. And I have everything planned out, and everything's organized, and everything's good. The entire trip, only one thing was on the agenda that went according to the agenda.
Wow.
Everything else, and I was okay with it.
Good.
In fact, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I just said, okay, why not? Let's try. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And just kind of went with the flow. Had the most amazing time. Met the most amazing people. The people who are sitting next to us at the bar, they're celebrating 17-year anniversary. And they couldn't do more than just go out to dinner because her kids missed her and wanted her to come home. So they couldn't even get a hotel room. But they were taking this time just to kind of be together and celebrate 17 years. The other guy is a regular at the bar. So the bartender knows him, has a different girl every other time. He just calls him his lady friend. And he's probably in his good 70s, I would say, if not older. Mm-hmm. And he just brings his girlfriends to the bar, and they have this wonderful dinner and stuff. Just as amazing people. I just had such a great time. And it was exactly what I needed to get out of my funk.
Yeah.
And
sounds like a pretty strong weekend to me. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not going to lie. I missed, because exactly what you did is usually what we ended up doing when we would go to a beer fest. Is we'd go, and then that night we'd usually find some cool place to go hang out, or afterwards, and then the next day we do that kind of stuff. Just hit like when like in Grand Rapids, there's like 1,000 breweries, so we just bounce around to different ones, or we'd find restaurants and whatever. And it's so awesome to just hang out and go do that stuff and just have a good time. Have good food and, whatever else.
It yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better weekend or a better time. I mean, it was near perfect. I couldn't have planned it better.
Right.
I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
I could not have
right.
planned it better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and it was kind of crazy because, I usually don't step away from work like I did. I barely check things. I barely, I did what I had to do, but that's it. Only the bare minimums, which they knew that was expected, because I was on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just interesting because even coming back Monday, the whole attitude just kind of rolled right over into Monday. I'm like, meh, okay, I'll get it caught up. So what if I'm a little behind? You can wait.
Yeah.
And and it was really cool. I mean, it was just kind of like just rolled over right over into, into just this week and the whole, I'm just chill. I mean, I woke up this morning and we have a leak in our living room because it's been raining like crazy. And I woke up to a leak in the living room. Walked out, didn't freak out. Saw it. I'm like, okay. Hubs is off this week. He's like, I'll have to get up on the roof and try to fix it. I'm like, okay. They said, do you need me to make any phone calls? He's like, nope, I think we got it. I'm like, okay. And I went to work. And I didn't think about it again. I'm like, it'll get handled.
Yeah.
And yeah, not me. Not at all my normal MO. So I'm not quite sure what switch got flipped, but we will see how long this lasts.
You were living in the moment, instead of living in your head. It's nice when you can get out of there.
Yeah, so it's been interesting. So again, like we'll just see how long this little switch can happen, and
right.
I'll ride it as long as I can. I'm sure I'll get back in my head again. I already been toying with stupid stuff in my head already, which it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. So that was my long-winded time.
Well, it wouldn't have been as long-winded if I wasn't like, hold on, tell us about the sandwich.
I needed over the sandwich. So how have you been?
Pretty good, actually. I've been last few weeks. My stress level has dropped a ton. Part of that is just doing a lot of music, which has been great. Also, just having some of the feeling of like I have to do this or these pressure things, to have them removed has been a huge help. And it's just been giving me some space to. Same thing as my personal stuff has mirrored my work, is where I feel like I have space to make decisions and choose and make the right decisions, rather than. What I kind of came to the conclusion is my stress comes from the fact that I don't feel like I can make the choice that I want to make, or the decisions that make me feel good, like I've accomplished something, that I have to take care of something right now, but it's not the thing that's maybe satisfying for me at that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Place and time, and that's because when you don't have enough space, and that can be my self-induced from procrastinating, or poor planning, or it can just be that thing that happens. But I've had over the weekends, I've been getting things done around the house, which is I'm not saying, all right, I'm going to paint the whole wall right now and this whole side of the house, which needs to be done. But I'm picking and choosing things like my front window needed to be re-leveled, and so I had it jacked up. There was a jack under it for a week, and then the next week I got a little more done on it, and then a little more done on it, and it still needs to be put back together. But it's been little things like that, like, oh, I was cleaning the house and I realized that the toilet wasn't actually secured to the floor anymore.
Oh, that's no good.
I knew there was a problem with it, but I just kind of selectively ignored the fact. Like one day I bumped it and I'm like, that lifted a little. That's probably not a good thing. But I happen to have a replacement toilet in the garage because people at my work get red toilets all the time, and they're in real high-end stuff. And so I brought one home. So I had it in the garage, And so when I lifted it up, I'm like, okay, that's not good. Like everything was just rusted out underneath.
Oh wow, yeah.
So ran down to the hardware store, grabbed a few things, and came back and boom, put it all together. And yeah, it was kind of nice to just have that kind of, again, that space to just do these things. And in the meantime, taking care of my own personal, my weekly routines, mowing the lawn and blah, blah, blah. And then, like I said, had some gigs, which were really fun. Had been, having some good time with the band. And this week I actually got back into work on the album a little. I'm going to have a little bit of a push with that one coming up in October, because Tom wants to get he wants to get together and jam, and I'm just like, I'd rather spend my time finishing these things. What bums me out is when, like, this last week, pretty much Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, even though I did something around the house, I pretty much did nothing that like maybe was my intention during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I checked in with a friend today about that, and she was just like, well, it sounds like you needed that.
Yeah. Well, like we've said on here a bunch of times, right? Doing nothing is doing something sometimes.
It was true that I needed it, because one night I've had, the little overflow on your sink in your bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, so I know mine's rusted. Like it's not like it overflows. Water gets in there and it doesn't make it out. So it was rusting, and then sometimes it'll back up. And so I had this rust stain on my sink, and I was just like, and I had things I wanted to do. I wanted to work on, doing some vocals and whatever. And next thing you know, I'm in there, I'm playing around with getting rid of the rust. And now I'm like cleaning out the whole rusty clog, and I'm grabbing and I'm just literally doing it like I'm futzing around. I'm listening to my audiobook. And
Right.
when I was done, I went and cleaned the bathtub. I took a bath, but it just felt right. And it's where I want to be, where, we didn't podcast last week. I'm like, okay, cool. We'll do it this week. And it feels right. It's like moving the needle. We recorded last Tuesday, and I made sure that I had the next episode ready to go for the couple days before that. And it just felt like the right timing. And I want to, and that's what's going on at work. So at work, I had a weird experience where I met with our board president on a Sunday, and she was starting to ask me some questions, and I'd had a couple of weird experiences at work again, where I was like, what is going on here? And so I started expressing it to her, and it was interesting to me how she was asking me questions. It was the right questions to ask. There were questions focused on me because, well, she's talking to me. She's not talking to anybody else. But she's asking me what I think, or who I think might have a problem and why. And I'm literally like, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just this thing again about, I said, I honestly don't know. We're not having these and I'm very open about the reactions and what my property manager told me. And she kept thinking, well, is there something that and I was just like, well, I can't help somebody else's sensitivities.
Yeah.
Like I can only be me. And unless they ask me, I kept coming back to it. But no matter what I said, and it had a lot to do with the way she phrased it, which I really appreciate. At the end, I felt I had my usual, like, where I share too much. I feel like I share too much. So I felt shame. And it actually brought me down a little bit. But the tools kicked in right away, which is, okay, what do I have control over? Myself and my attitude. And that's it. Can't control anybody else. But I could, even though I don't feel like I need to, I can still make life better for other people. And if I make life better for other people, I make life better for myself. And I don't know where it came from, but I just, I let myself be in that feeling that day. It wasn't that great. And by Tuesday morning, I met with my coworkers, and all of a sudden a solution hit me, which was, I was just trying to come up with a way of, like, how could I be more inclusive? And all of a sudden it hit me. I said, hey, what do you guys think I should do? I put it onto them.
Yeah.
Not
Awesome.
but I said, if we're a team, we all get to decide, because I've got a list of things and I can lay out what I'm going to do, but that's not inclusive.
Right.
Sure, I'm getting my job done, but I'm not being inclusive. And so I was just like, what do you guys think I should do? What do you think is a priority right now? And it felt really good, and it felt like it made a difference. And ever since then, we've been spending a lot more time working together and talking about what we're doing together. And I feel, part of it's also, I'm caught up now, so I'm able to, I'm not sitting in the office so much, and it just feels like the right place to be at right now, and which is nice for change, because I was honestly baffled by why things were difficult. And if it came down to one small thing like that to make it better, awesome. And then what that did is that inspired me. So I came up with my own plan, which was, okay, in the morning, I'll take care of office stuff. I'll do catch up. And then the afternoon, I have to go out and accomplish something. I have to go take on a task and nail it. And boy, did I had a brain teaser. I ended up doing about 14 hours of work on the set of garage doors, like industrial garage doors for like an underground garage. And it's like a giant's rat's nest. And luckily there was an electrical schematic in there. And I'm not an electrical engineer, but I know enough about signal flow that I can kind of figure out what it was saying. So I took about 2.5 days. Again, it was great. Bite-sized pieces, because we did have somebody come in and say, hey, when's this going to get fixed? And I'm like, hey, I'm going to start working on it today. And it was great. Everybody that walked by got to see that giant. One person said, so how's your Rubik's Cube going? It was seriously like that. I'm like, I am so close to having all the colors. I didn't work until 8:00 that night.
Oh, wow.
I just didn't stop. I'm like, I am so close. So there were things that were making it not work. And then I fixed those. But there was one issue that came up, and it was a safety issue. It was one of the safety sensors, and it wasn't working. And while I was doing this, I found out that the doors closed on one of our owners on their car.
Oh.
And they bounced off like they're supposed to, but they should never have closed. The beam should sense them, and the door should have stopped.
Right.
And it happened weeks ago, and nobody had said anything about it.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
Yeah, well, the minute that Mr. Alvino came up to me, I said, do you have an estimate? Yes. Yeah. He said, yes. I said, could you please bring it to the office? We will pay for this. And I said, because one of the first things I realized that these sensors are bad. The truth of the matter is 2 years ago, I let the facilities manager know that the beam isn't working, and he did nothing about it for 2 years. And we all knew about it.
Jeez.
Wow.
So there was no way I was leaving those doors operating without that sensor working.
Mm-hmm.
B, I wasn't leaving those doors open again for another 2 days over the weekend until I got back in. I'm like, I'm fixing this now, and then I'll just I'll go in late on Sunday. But I finished it, and it felt so good. Good. Yeah, it was great to get in there and just use my brain and use my skills and feel like I accomplished something. Because everyone was like, why don't you call somebody? Why don't you call somebody? And it's like, who are you going to get? You're going to need an electrician to do this. Like, why don't you call the garage door company? I'm like, nope. Those guys come out and they stick a little box on the ceiling and they,
Yeah.
This is literally a commercial, and you'd have to get somebody from 2 hours away that would even touch this.
Yeah.
And they're going to they might figure some things out faster than I did because I had to literally learn what every part does.
Right.
But they still had to start at the beginning and trace it and find where the wires were wrong.
Yeah.
It's a process, right?
Yep.
And in the meantime, I get to learn it. And I can teach it.
Right. And if it happens again, you can potentially fix it.
Exactly. And that's what we really, that is our main goal with having on-site maintenance on this property.
Yeah.
Is we learn to take care of things. There are things that we legally can't do, and so
Right.
we don't do them.
Sure.
Or special licenses or they need, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, felt really good. And it's just been, I just feel like there's just like this, air. And then, I'm going to be in California for my brother-in-law's 60th birthday in a couple of weeks. And I've already got arranged to see my two oldest friends, and we're all going to get together and go to my dad's gravesite and then have lunch together. And I'm really looking forward to that, going back there. And I had my freaking crowns fixed, or the crowns done last week, and one of them is not right. And I called them on Thursday. I know they're not open on Friday, so it didn't bother me. But they got me in first thing on Monday morning, and I'm like, there's something wrong with this. There is something wrong with this tooth, and it was the same thing that my old dentist did for me 15 freaking years ago. Oh, well, you guys, they're grinding together, and I'm like, no, you can grind, you can. Pull out your drill and level it, but there's something wrong. It feels wrong. And they're not listening. Get on a freaking plane in a couple of weeks. And if I've got an infection in there, a root issue, as soon as I get to elevation, it's going to freaking hurt a lot. And I'm just like, I don't even know what to do at this point. Like, I haven't wanted to deal with this tooth because the other side I've had, I'm getting that implant. But I'm like, I know there's something wrong with this thing. I bit down on a corn kernel, a couple months ago, and the pain that I felt was way more than just than the sensitivity. It's weird that, I guess I do it at work too. I look for the obvious thing first before. If somebody tells me there's something wrong, I look at it and I go, oh, it's probably just this. Mm-hmm. But I hate the fact that I have to wait till I'm in like something really bad to feel like somebody's listening.
Yeah, I went through that when I was like filing for, like, going through the stuff for Social Security and stuff. Remember, I was like, I feel like I have to go in and dial it up in order to get them to listen to me. And that's ridiculous. If I go in and tell how I feel and how I am, that should be that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. I shouldn't have to go in and essentially lie, or maybe not even lie, but exaggerate, however you want to word it, and same with you. It's like, if you're in there and, oh God, then maybe they do something. But if you're in there like, hey, it's really uncomfortable, it hurts when I bite down sometimes, then it'll work itself out over time, Because I've had that after having fillings done, where I've, because how, like, they put the filling in and they tell you to bite down and whatever. Yeah. And then for a few days, it's kind of uncomfortable until your teeth kind of wear, they wear on each other to get that fit. And I've gone in and been like, yeah, it hurts though. Like, it shouldn't hurt like this. And I've had the same thing where there's like, well, give it a couple days or a week. And, and then a week later, I'm like, hey, it's still bothering me.
This has been months now. I'm like, yeah. I kept saying I have cold sensitivity. I've had cold sensitivity now for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
You literally grinded my tooth down to nothing and stuck a temporary cap on it. It is still unbelievably sensitive. Like, don't tell me it's because my bite needs to get adjusted.
Right.
Something's wrong.
Yeah.
But like her point is, Katya's great. She's the assistant, and she, the tech, that's the dental tech. And she says, well, the good news is you still got a nerve.
Yeah, I had the same thing about, like, the tooth that I broke basically at first, when I went in, because the dentist was talking to me about something, and I was like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, that's good, because that means it's still got a nerve in it.
Ooh, yay.
Yeah, I was like, yay, it hurts. That doesn't seem like something to celebrate.
That's my only thing I'm complaining about. Well, the good news is I saved some money because they overcharged me on the implant. Yeah.
All right.
But, so right now finances are not not happy about. That's for things that I need to do for my own isms. That one is I'm slipping.
Yeah.
Like, And over the weekend, I talked to my friend Brendan about it, and I talked to Neil about it too. Neil's great. Like, we might end up in the same place, and like as far as like, okay, what's your next step? What are you going to do? But Neil's a lot more forgiving and compassionate. And what I love about Brendan is is the one friend that will end up in, like I said, the same place. He won't be a total, like, give me too much crap, but at some point he's gonna WTF me.
Yeah.
He's gonna at least do it once,
Yep.
but he's not gonna take it to an extreme place.
Right.
He's still gonna, he's gonna be understanding,
I've
but it's not gonna have one person say that.
Yes. I think we all need that, like when there's just sometimes in life where what you sometimes need is a firm kick in the hiney, just one, just to straighten you out. It doesn't have to be a constant one or knock you down and stomp on you, but just one good firm kick right betwixt the buttocks to straighten you right out.
What you deserve.
Yes.
A level you deserve.
Right. And then be like, okay, now let's get this right.
Get offended by it. You're like, yep, deserve that one.
Had it coming. Okay. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. That's how a lot of times how you can tell a true friend, because they'll be like, like you said, not a jerk about it, but brutally honest sometimes when you need brutal honesty, because there are some times where, we all know it. Like a lot of times when we go to friends for advice or this or that, what you're really looking for is a confirmation of a decision you've, already made basically, or something to that effect. But it's nice sometimes when someone's like, no, that's a really stupid idea, and here's why. And then talk it through. Maybe you find something, like you said, you arrive at the same place, but you just need that alternate opinion sometimes.
And then opening up for the accountability going on. And that was my main thing. I said, hey, I know this, I'm not at a problem yet, but I'm at the place where it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
I need to make sure it doesn't. And that means I know myself. If there's somebody I'm accountable to, if I up and out it, I'm less likely to bury it and to keep getting into more trouble.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's again tools. And so I like where I'm at right now compared to a month ago where I didn't like where I was at.
Well, good. I'm glad, whatever it was, helped you find your way back onto the right road there. Or at least you're driving toward the right road, whatever,
Well, I think also I don't give my tools a chance to work in my life when I'm stressed or when I'm future casting or I'm, coming, like Jen, like I love how you call it. You're like, you're in your schemes, it's like, I don't need schemes right now. Plans right now.
Yeah.
I've got real rudimentary A, B, C kind of stuff. The stairs, they're right in front of me. It's like, it's take one step, take two, step three. I do not need to be looking at the freaking penthouse.
Right. Yeah.
It does me no good.
Yep.
All.
Yep.
Where are you? What are you doing? That's the question I need to ask myself. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so so either way, either the stress where I'm just the pinball in the machine getting bounced around, or I've got evidently too much time on my hands if I'm able to, come up with all sorts of fancy ideas.
Right. Yeah.
I'd like a nice balance between those two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Enough breathing room so the tools work, and so it's and having having the opportunity to still do our podcast, but not feeling the demand of it, that has been a help also. And I say thank you.
Yeah. I feel the same way, honestly. I think I was kind of at a point with it to where I was kind of that way too, but I've always pushed into it because I kind of feel like it's my my depression trying to just squeeze stuff out. So it's a weird balance for me, but it does feel nice to not have to do that every week. It's weird. I love doing this show. I really do. I just feel like right now it just feels like, whatever. I mean, down the road, if we all revisit it and go back to weekly, that's fine too, but it's like, I feel like right now, I feel like I kind of, I think part of it was, I think I've been feeling kind of burnout on podcasting a little bit. And I think this really helps because by putting that space in there, it breathes energy into both of my podcasts that maybe I was kind of losing,
Yeah. Yeah.
It gives me some space.
I've also not been listening to as many.
Yeah.
So that sums it up too, is like just the general genre.
Yeah.
A little bit like just, it's not, I still love it, but it's just not a priority right now.
Yeah. It's weird. I've been listening to more lately. I've gotten to where, like, what I do is at night now, like, I'll watch whatever's on Cartoon Network, depending on what's on, and then if it hits a point where I'm like, I don't really love this show, I've been turning the TV off and then listening to podcasts instead. And that's making me feel good because I'm still watching shows I enjoy. And then I'm also making some headway in my back catalog of the, like, 9 billion podcasts I haven't listened to yet. and I've openly straight out deleted a bunch recently too, just to make myself feel better, because otherwise it's seriously like those pants that you're like, yeah, someday I'll lose enough weight to get into those,
You know what? Yeah, sometimes it's easy. I like the idea of like, someday I'll just buy another pair.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
If I need size, I'll go buy it again.
Yeah.
So you say you're burned out on doing podcasts? I mean, you've only been doing it for, 10, 12 years straight?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
I'm shocked that you might be getting a little burned out.
Yeah. I know. It's like if you add the 2 shows up and the enthusiast episodes and stuff, it's like I'm pretty close to 900 episodes, I think, under my belt now.
Yeah, and
So,
almost consistently straight every week.
Yeah. Well, do you know what's funny is I don't think it's necessarily doing the podcast that's where I feel the burnout. It's like when you listen to an athlete, they're always like, game day isn't the reason I'm retiring. It's I don't want to practice. And like with this, like I don't want to do all the other stuff. Like I don't mind podcasting, but it's like I don't want to go through and have to, not that I edit much, but it's like I still do that, and then I post it in a bunch of groups on Facebook and all this, and it's like that stuff just gets old real fast. Like if I had somebody who was like an intern, I would dump it all right into their lap and be like, see ya, I'm just gonna go back, I'm just gonna be a talent. Because I've said it before, whenever it's so nice, it's weird, but it's really nice when I get to go on another podcast because all I have to do is show up. Maybe I have to do a little homework beforehand, but that's fine. But it's like I just show up and that's it. At the end of it, it's all someone else's problem. I just go, all right, cool, thanks for having me, and I'm done out the door. I know, I'm sure Heno knows what I'm talking about because you were doing the editing on Moving the Needle and on Gotham Lights or whatever other, I forgot what the other show was now. Orville, that's what it was. So it's like it takes its time to do that stuff. So it's the thankless part of podcasting, like somebody might tell you they enjoy listening to it, but it's still, it's still work. That's why in any of those groups that I'm in, whenever they're like, what advice do you have for new podcasters? I'm like, understand that it's not, it's not as easy as it seems. There's an element of work to it that sometimes gets old. Other times you don't mind much. It's just the truth of it, And also I have mental health issues that I'm constantly dealing with, so sometimes those just run me down enough to where I just don't, you feel like you just don't have enough energy to give to anything. So
yeah,
that's why I always try to push into doing the shows because I don't want that to take over completely, and it wants to bad, like that's its only goal is to just completely squeeze all the joy out of my life, and it's my responsibility to fight it. So, anyway.
Well, guys, we're at that time. Do we push forward? Do we save it for another day?
I say that's on you because I'll be up for another, 10 hours. Because we
What
could
do you
do the
think, Rhino?
topic real quick. I mean, if we're gonna do an every other week show, it's not as bad if it's a tad longer
Right.
to fit the topic too. Or we could just skip it and do it some other time.
We've been skipping topics lately, so
Yes, there's that as well.
I'm thinking we can power through this
All right.
one.
Let's go.
All right. So, folks, what we're going to be talking about today, our topic is ways pets support mental health. The reason that this became a topic today, a good friend of my husband and I's came over and he sat our dogs while we were gone this weekend. And I do about 50-pound pit bulls who are very goofy. And he's really great with dogs and stuff, but he has a lot of anxiety and depression and mental health stuff and, pretty severe cases. He's, on different medicines and whatnot. But he loves dogs and he was, happy to come over and take care of our dogs for us. So he comes down and he gets here and we receive this picture of our dogs. And he continues to send pictures of our dogs the entire weekend because they kept doing silly things to make him laugh. And he was having such a great time that he couldn't help himself. So according to him, he has about 100 pictures of our dogs in various states of goofiness. They cuddled with him all night. They were the sweetest things ever, and he was just beside himself. He said his sides hurt from laughing. At one point, Otis, my brunette brindle, comes by. Our friend was talking on the phone, and Otis comes by dragging a toy, and steps over his feet and continues on his way. Not even like a second later, he feels something else on his foot, and he looks down, and it is Molly, my blonde brindle, holding on to the other end of the toy, being dragged by Otis across the floor. Not only did Otis drag her across his feet, around the coffee table, down through the kitchen, through the den, into the breezeway.
Wow.
The entire time, Molly was on her side holding on to the toy as Otis drags her through the entire house. Just goofiness. But that's my babes. They are absolute joy. And
it's just really funny that, she literally just hung on that whole time. And it's just extra funny to me because it's literally a let go or be dragged.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's like, just drag me. I don't care. I'm not letting go of the damn toy.
Oh, that's
not
awesome.
happening.
That's funny.
So it made me think about how much joy and wonderful things that pets bring into our lives, especially when it comes time for mental illness. The article I have is 10 Ways Pets Support Mental Health. It was posted on the newportacademy.com from 2018. The bond between humans and animals are powerful, and the positive correlation between pets and mental health is undeniable. According to a 2015 Harris poll, 95% of pet owners think their animals as a member of the family, and that is true no matter how old we are. Children, adolescents, adults, and seniors all find joy in their pets. Therefore, pets and mental health go hand in hand. Furthermore, research validates the benefits of pets for mental health. The mental health benefit of owning a dog or cat have been proven by many scientific studies. Animals help with depression, anxiety, and stress. In addition, they provide companionship and ease loneliness. And moreover, pets bring us joy and unconditional love. The first research on pets and mental health was published 30 years ago. Psychologist Alan Beck of Purdue University and psychiatrist Aaron Ketcher of the University of Pennsylvania conducted the study. Therefore, they measured what happens to the body when a person pets a friendly dog. Here's what they found. Your blood pressure goes down, heart rate slows, breathing becomes more regular, and muscle tension is relaxed. These are all signs of reduced stress. Therefore, the researchers had discovered physical evidence of the mental health benefits of pets. So there you go, folks. There's mental health benefits. Proven. So different things that have been shown over the years, as we know by looking around, interacting with pets lowers our stress hormones. So therapy benefits, there's equine therapy, which has been used in, actually, it's one of the more famous drug and alcohol rehabs in Arizona, focuses on equine therapy. And the addicts and stuff spend time, in part of their treatment is spending time with horses and taking care of them, training them, taking from walks and riding them and all of that stuff, cleaning their stalls. And they use it because it basically helps them have responsibilities. It helps them with emotional problems. They're encouraged to talk to the animals, to share their stuff, because you know what? Horses aren't going to talk unless they're Mr. Ed. They're not talking to anybody else. So you can share all your secrets to them, and their furs are really great tear catchers. So the human-horse connection allows teens to address emotions and issues. They do this through a powerful, direct experience of nonverbal communications. Pets and mental health, they lower stress. The sensory act of stroking a pet lowers blood pressure, therefore reduces stress. Consequently, studies have shown that dogs can help calm hyperactive and aggressive children. In one study, a group of stressed-out adults was told to pet a rabbit, a turtle, or a toy. Touching the toy didn't have any effect. However, stroking the rabbit or turtle relieved anxiety. In addition, even people who didn't particularly like animals still experienced the benefit.
Doesn't it make you wonder a little bit, though, like if the toy had been a stuffed rabbit? I wonder, what the results would have been. Like if a kid sat there and stroked a stuffed rabbit, if they would have the same reduction in stuff or not.
Well, another study they did, pets protect against childhood anxiety. Pet dog may protect children from anxiety. According to a study by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, a total of 643 children participated in the study. A little over half of them had pet dogs in their home. Researchers measured the children's body mass index, anxiety levels, screen time, and physical activity. As a result, they found that all the children had similar BMI, screen time, and physical activity. This held true whether or not they had pet dogs, but their anxiety levels were different. In fact, 21% of the children who did not have a pet dog tested positive on a screening test for anxiety. However, only 12% of children with dogs tested positive for anxiety. Therefore, pets clearly have a beneficial effect on childhood stress and anxiety. As a result, children who grow up with pets may have a better chance of becoming healthy and happy teens. Pets make us feel needed. People feel more needed and wanted when they have a pet to care for. The act of caretaking has mental health benefits. Caring for another living thing gives us a sense of purpose and meaning.
Yeah.
Which anyone who has depression knows that is a huge piece of it.
I can 100% speak to this because I went through, like when I was living by myself, I went through about a week of a really bad depression. But I had a cat, and she needed to be fed. She needed, water. She needed her litter box changed, So at bare minimum, I got up every day and did that. Like that got me out of bed long enough for at least for that. And usually since I was already up, then I would, get something for myself to eat. Otherwise, I might not have bothered, So that one, like I said, I can 100% speak on. Also, like if you had a dog, you might have to take them for a walk or, at least let them outside or whatever it is. So, definitely that element to it. And moving your depression can make a big difference. You know, like literally just moving from a bed to a chair or from your bedroom to the living room or whatever. It's still something. So there's definitely something to be said for that.
That term, moving your depression.
Yeah, that's what my previous therapist referred to it as, because she was like, on the days you don't feel like getting out of bed, can you get in, could you move to a chair, or can you, just to kind of change the situation a little bit in hopes that maybe moving around or doing something might kind of get you going a little bit.
Pets increase our sense of self-esteem and well-being. Studies show that pet owners had improved well-being in various areas, including better self-esteem, more physically fit, less lonely, more conscientious and less preoccupied, more extroverted, and less fearful. In the first study, 217 people answered questions about their well-being, personality type, and attachment style, and pet owners were happier, healthier, and better adjusted than non-pet owners. A second experiment involved 56 dog owners. Researchers examined pet owners' feelings about their pets. In addition, they measured their well-being. One group of people reported that their dogs increased their feelings of belonging, self-esteem, and meaning. Thus, these participants showed greater overall well-being than other participants. Furthermore, 97 undergraduates with an average age of 19 participated in a third study. As a result, researchers found that pets can help adolescents feel better after experiencing rejection. The teens were asked to write about a time when they felt excluded. Then they were asked to do one of three things: write about their favorite pet, write about their favorite friend, or draw a map of their campus. And writing about pets was just as effective as writing about a friend in combating feelings of rejection. Dogs and cats are great examples of being in the moment. Pets live in the moment. In other words, they don't worry about what happened yesterday. Moreover, they aren't worried about what might happen tomorrow. As a result, pets can help people become more mindful. Mindfulness is the psychological process of bringing one's attention to the present moment. Therefore, pets can help teens enjoy and appreciate the present moment. In addition, pets help to distract teens from what's bothering them, and spending time with a pet helps teens remember how to be playful and carefree. And I'll say, that's not just for teens, that's for everybody. I am not necessarily known to be carefree and, and silly a lot of the times. It's just, I have my moments, but overall, I'm not. The dogs will get me going sometimes, and get me out of my fuddy-duddy ways, shall we say. My husband will get on the ground and wrestle with them and goof around and all that other stuff. That's not more my style, more cuddle style. But I'll still get there and, play with them, and they'll drop their ball on me and stuff, and they'll coax it out of me, They get me moving.
Yeah.
Pets support recovery from mental illness. Pets are extremely helpful for people recovering from severe mental health conditions. A new meta-analysis looked at 17 academic papers drawn from 9 medical databases. As a result, researchers found evidence that having a pet benefits people with mental health conditions. The papers looked at how cats, dogs, hamsters, finches, and even goldfish affected the mental well-being of people living with mental illness. Overall, the review found that pets help the participants to manage their emotions. In addition, it distracted them from the symptoms of their mental health conditions. A 2016 study at the University of Manchester in the United Kingdom involved 54 participants. All of them had been diagnosed with severe mental illness such as depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, or post-traumatic stress. As a result, 60% of participants placed a pet in their most important circle of supportive connections. Furthermore, about half of the participants said their pets helped them manage their illness in everyday life. Having pets also gave them a strong sense of identity, self-worth, and meaning. Moreover, pets distracted them from the symptoms like hearing voices, suicidal thoughts, and ruminations. Moreover, caring for a pet also gave owners a feeling of being in control, plus it gave them a sense of security and routine. One participant said, "When I was so depressed. I was kind of suicidal. The thing that made me stop was wondering what the rabbits would do. That was the first thing I thought of. I can't leave because my rabbits need me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's true.
Pet-
When they're pets, it's different if they're, like an outdoor type of situation. But if you keep them in a cage in your house and something happens to you, no one's taking care of them until,
Exactly.
whatever.
I mean, what's going to happen to my pet is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Pets provide a unique form of validation through unconditional support, which they were often not receiving from other family or social relationships, said Dr. Helen Brooks, lead author of the study. Dr. Brooks and her team concluded that pet ownership has a valuable contribution to mental health, therefore it should be incorporated into patients' individual plans of patient care. And then lastly, pets help us build healthy habits. Physical activity, time in nature, getting up and getting moving in the morning. And pet care supports self-care. Caring for a dog, horse, or a cat reminds us to care for ourselves as well. For example, teens that groom horses in equine-assisted therapy remember the importance of caring for their own health. So it goes on, and there's some really great other points where it talks about social connections, relationship skills.
It's funny because, like, the social connections one is a very important one, especially, post or during pandemic times, because there's a lot of us that can't really do a whole lot, but there are a lot of people who still will take their dog to a dog park. And they get social interactivity with whether it's other owners or petting other dogs or, just watching the dogs play, those kind of things. There's a really important element in that, that especially now I would say, but probably, in general, but like it said, just, getting it's funny because the first study that was talked about in this, I believe, is actually one that was talked about in a podcast I just listened to last night called The Happiness Lab. And I'll have a link to it in the show notes if anyone wants to listen to it, because they actually point out a lot of, someone else did another study and basically proved a lot of the stuff in that first study as essentially, not that it was incorrect, but that basically there wasn't that much difference between the people without animals and with. It because of the way they worded the questions. And if you go back and you listen to how they did it, what they're not doing is testing a group of people who have animals, and then a group of people without, and then a group of people who didn't have animals but then introduce animals to see if their certain levels went up. And so you're kind of leaving part of the process out of it. And also, if you notice, a lot of the numbers are small. These are very small tests. So, in a lot of scientific ways, these would not necessarily be conclusive as, they'd be an intro study. But what they did find is that when you look at it a little differently, that you start seeing the trends. And like you were saying, the comfort, the socializing, there's so many benefits that we all can speak of on it, that really the fact that there was any science done on it it doesn't matter, because what you end up finding out is it's like, well, does it work for you? Then it works, right? Like that kind of a thing. It's essentially like, I don't want to put it with essential oils, but it's kind of in the same vein. A lot of essential oils by science, testing show that they don't do anything. But if you believe it works, it works.
Yeah. I would fall it more into the homeopathic healing.
Right. And but I think it was more that it isn't that they disagree with the results as much as they disagree with the parameters of the initial test. That's what it sounded like to me. But anyway, it's a good listen because it talks about a lot of what Jen just talked about and expands on some of the other stuff, like how great, like there's a story in there about a woman who, like, at a certain point, she bought a motorcycle with a sidecar, and she puts goggles on her dog and puts the dog in the sidecar and drives through their little town, and everybody wants to come see the dog and all this. So it becomes her animal is a gateway to social interactivity. And that's what I was talking about a minute ago. And there's a huge benefit to that, because that fights, not only does having the animal help you fight loneliness, but by having social interactivity, you feel like you belong, you don't feel as rejected, so all those other things that you were saying, it's like, this is, that's why the woman even said, who did this alternate study, she's basically like, there's all this proof that this stuff works. It's, again, there's a reason why, they like taking animals into senior centers or, centers with children in hospitals and all that kind of stuff, because it's such a nice comfort. And who doesn't like to have, your animal on your lap when you're not feeling comfortable or you feel a little sick or whatever? They want to be as close to us as possible because they sense it. They feel, they want to make us better. You can just tell. Like, my cat stays away from us for the most part. She's not a lay on your lap kind of person. But if my mom's not feeling well, that cat is right next to her on the couch or right by her or in her vicinity constantly. Like she can just tell something isn't right, and she's trying to help her human out. So it's, like I said, I'm not dumping on any of this in any way. It's just interesting how it reminds me of a long time ago, Henno, when you guys on Angela's Awesome podcast talked about scientific studies and how just because a scientific study exists doesn't mean that that is 100% fact. And this is in no way me shooting down science, but questions and your parameters make all the difference in the world. And that's, it's very interesting how you can prove and debunk this with animals, but then when you change the testing to where it feels more right, like fair, then you end up with the same results as the original ones and stuff. So it's kind of funny that you can be like, well, the way they tested wasn't really right, but then you change it to where it should be right, and it's like, oh, well, it's still proving the same thing. So it's and like I said, who doesn't feel comfort from their animal? I mean, as we're talking, Henno is petting his dog on his lap right now. So
absolutely. And it just makes, for those that have social anxiety disorder, for those who struggle coming up with conversation starters, for those who get nervous and uncomfortable, just having that animal as a discussion point, something to talk about with people, something to occupy yourself when you're standing there by yourself in the park and nobody's talking with you and you feeling awkward and uncomfortable, and you can just bend down and start talking to your dog and no one thinks twice about it.
Right.
There's just something very special about it. I mean, personally, I grew up with animals in the house, and I went 2 weeks without an animal in my home because I was moving locations, I was moving places. And Brian can attest, it was a very rough 2 weeks because I was getting Milo, and I hadn't gotten Milo quite yet when I first moved out.
Remember,
Yeah. So he got many a phone call at night talking about all the different sounds that I was hearing, all the different anxieties I was having. I was stressed out. It was not a pleasant 2 weeks. Ever since then, I have always had an animal, whether it be a cat or a dog, around me. And I know I will always have to have that for the rest of my life. It's just a given. It makes my life much easier to manage.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think scientific study or not, I think most of us just intuitively feel that way. There's just something about having, that, especially depending on the animals and stuff, whether it's unconditional love or not, but, because a lot of cats don't feel like it's unconditional love, or if you have a goldfish, I don't know how people feel anything like a bond really with them, but, that's not for me. That's, but if it does for someone, great. But I'm the same as you, as I really like having animals around. I don't like that. There's just an emptier feeling to things. And, having especially if you live by yourself, it's just nice to feel like you have someone / something to talk to, like you said, so you maybe don't feel crazy that you're talking to yourself all the time, like.
No, I'm talking to the dog.
And also, like you said, they do make amazing icebreakers, because how many times are you somewhere and someone's got an animal and so, oh, who's this little guy, or who's this, kind of thing, whatever. So it's, and I mean, everybody probably knows the trope of getting an animal and going to the park, to pick up people. There's a reason that was a trope, though, is it's like it
works.
It's an icebreaker, because who doesn't like to bend down and, pet a dog or something. So it's, Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, this podcast was brought to you from the local Humane Society and Pet Adoption Center. So please, folks, go out there and make sure that you, oh my gosh, I just had it in my head and I completely lost it. Oh, adopt, don't shop.
Oh,
that's
okay.
It.
I was like,
so go out there, adopt, don't shop.
I say adopt and shop.
Yeah.
Okay, adopt and shop too.
Yeah. And I say, if you're getting a cat, make sure you don't overlook the all black kitties that are the ones that are usually not adopted out, which is so silly to me, because they're beautiful cats. And I know the main reason is because people think they're bad luck, but I had one for 23, 24 years, and it's not like when she died, all of a sudden I won the lottery. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's a bunch of bunk,
And she was wonderful.
Yeah,
even though she hated me in the beginning.
Well, that's part of why she was wonderful, though. No.
She was a little witch kitty.
Like I always said, a great judge of character. I kid. But she was a wonderful cat. And I've got other, like, Twitter friends and stuff that they have cats that look just like that, my previous cat. And, when they post pictures of their cats, and I'm like, oh, because it looks like I'm looking at my cat, or whatever. But it's, like I said, don't overlook the older animals, or the, like I said, the all black kitties that people don't tend to adopt and stuff. They all deserve love too. And
if you can't have space for an animal in your home or in your life right now for whatever reason, if you feel moved to do so, they can always use food and litter and blankets and stuff at the local humane societies and such. So
I assume they all do it, but like the one that's up in Monroe, Michigan, on their billboard, their sign outside, actually says like it's like wish list, and it will list like 2 or 3 things that they're in need of. Which I think is a brilliant idea, because as you're just driving by, you can see it, it's not something you have to, I should check their website or whatever. It's like just in your daily commute, you could be like, they need this, and, help them out or something.
Right. And they're not too far from a local grocery store either. No, they're just down the street from the grocery store.
Yep.
So it makes it nice and easy.
I know, right? Yeah, it is nice.
So volunteer and help them out.
Yeah.
You can go down and walk dogs at a lot of your shelters. They look for people to come and take the dogs out for walks.
Yeah, that's true, because a lot of them are understaffed. They, so, and I mean, be a great way, especially like you said, whether you can't financially afford an animal, or you just, you live in an apartment where you can't, or a place where you can't have an animal. That's a good way to still get some interactivity with some and whatever. So, yeah.
So Google it, folks. There are lots of opportunities out there, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. With that, we have covered a lot of conversation tonight. A lot of topics, a lot of interesting things were said, and a lot of interesting things were left unsaid, I'm sure. So, if you would like to continue the conversation with us, you know what to do. You can reach us at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com is our website. thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com is our email address. If you would like to reach me, you can reach me on the Twitters at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. And I will let everybody know that I am down to about 2.5 hours a day on my phone. So, That being said, if I don't get back to you immediately, I do apologize. Give me a little time, and I will get to you. Mm-hmm. And Hanno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Hanno. You can find me on Facebook, Facebook Messenger, Instagram. Just look up Hanno Heiter, and I am there. And if you aren't burnt out on podcasts and still like listening to new podcasts, especially ones about movies that you may or may not have seen before, check out Movie the Needle podcast, where this last week we did our verses of Demolition Man. It got released versus The Fifth Element with friend of the show, Jeannie, who joined us for that, and a special guest from across the pond who was absolutely hilarious and spot on. And we had a great time, so you can check that out. We talked about both of those films. And our next podcast, which I'm really looking forward to, we are going to be talking about Professor Marston and the Wonder Women, which is kind of like it's based on a true story of the origins of the Wonder Woman comic book and the interesting people and relationships that were involved. If you haven't seen the movie, it's on HBO, and it's an eye opener.
Interesting. I have not seen that, so interesting.
Yeah, Jeannie was the one that recommended it to me. I watched it instantly, like within the first 5 minutes, was like in.
Mm-hmm.
Kiki, she watched it, then was like, all right, I want to do a podcast on it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. A lot of early days of psychology, talks about women's liberation and alternative lifestyles.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Hey.
Back then, they were called deviants.
Yes. Right.
So if you feel a connection with the deviant, watch it.
Right. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami, or you can find my other podcast on Twitter at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show's not safe for work. Just me and my best friend just talking about kind of whatever. Like this week we talked about the sequel to Twins that's going to be coming out, I guess, at some point called Triplets. We talked about Norm Macdonald and his passing. We talked about Josh Blue, the comedian, Halloween shopping, What If, the new He-Man cartoon, Princess Bride toys, and just stuff like that. So if that's what you're into, please give us a chance at, again, at salty_language on Twitter or saltylanguage.com. You can find this show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. We're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go check out the other shows there. And, yeah, I think that's all that stuff. Yep. So, yeah, but just lost every train of thought there. Whew. As always, if you need help, please reach out. There's all sorts of people out there willing to help you. Just, you got to take the first step. And again, I know it's super hard. All three of us here have done it. So we all know, that it's a lot to ask. It's a very hard thing to do for a lot of people. So, when you're ready, there's people out there willing to help you. So please do that. Please check on your friends, especially if you know that they may be struggling. Just reach out and, just say hi, how you doing, whatever. Just checking in on you, that kind of stuff. And, yeah. And then I guess, as always, like I usually say, be excellent to one another, to each other, however it was worded, but be kind to one another. Please don't be one of the people that end up on the news for yelling and screaming at somebody for, whatever it is. You just don't be that person. Just be nice to people. We all got a lot of stress on us right now, especially people that are working in, retail and food industries. I was at Burger King the other night, and they're basically, they had a long line because of what they're doing. Basically, they were short staffed and they were just doing one car at a time, essentially. So this line's not moving real fast. And there was a guy that literally just put his window down and just started screaming he was 2 cars away from the window, and he's just yelling at him about how, whatever it was, just how mad he was. And it's like, man, if it's that bad, go find somewhere else to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't be that jerk. Like, come on, So please be kind to one another and help each other out when you can. And like I said, be excellent to one another or to each other. I can't remember how the quote from Bill and Ted, but that.
Right. All right. With that, everybody go out there and have the best week and 2 weeks, I guess I should say. Go out and have the best 2 weeks you possibly can. And
I don't know. I kind of like the other way a little better, right? Like, if we're not going to be back for 2 weeks and we're like, go out and have the best week you can, we give them the opportunity that across 2 that they'll average into 1. So, mathematically, I feel like that's giving them more wiggle room.
True. I can see that. And make sure you go out there and you pet a dog, preferably a friendly one. Have a good week.